Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Complete streets are designed to provide safe and accessible options for multiple modes of travel as well as for people of all ages and abilities. Streets should accommodate pedestrians, bicyclists, and public transit users, not just cars and freight vehicles. Streets should also be safe for children, older individuals, and individuals with disabilities. And that's why I'm today introducing the Complete Streets Act. My legislation will promote these kinds of neighborhoods by requiring that states set aside a portion of their federal highway money to create a competitive grant program to fund complete streets projects at the regional and local level. I'm proud that my legislation has been endorsed by Uber, Lyft, and VIA. Professor Arroyo, do you believe that a complete streets approach to our transportation network is an important priority for surface transportation reauthorization?
Absolutely. It's really important to give people alternatives. This is something that we covered in the Future of the Interstate Highway System study, especially in urban areas with the congestion in suburban areas. Giving people safe alternatives like complete streets, investment in transit, arterial roads is as important as doing things on the highway itself. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. So the transportation sector is our largest source of greenhouse gas emissions. In fact, vehicles driving on our roads represent 83% of those emissions. And I've been working with Senator Carper and other members of the committee to focus on establishing goals and standards to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the federal highway program. And I've been working on legislation to accomplish this. It is my hope that these principles can be included in the final surface transportation bill that the committee produces, and we greatly appreciate the openness from the chairman on these concepts given the reality our states are facing. So again, Professor Arroyo, do you believe that reducing emissions in transportation is imperative to avert the worst effects of climate crisis?
Absolutely. It's the largest source, as you just said, of emissions, and we have to tackle it.
Now, do the states have the resources to accomplish those goals right now?
No, they do not. Part of why the states have banded together in the Transportation and Climate Initiative is to look at the twin challenges of the lower revenues that the transportation system is getting at the same time that we need to increase investment in low-carbon transportation solutions.
So it makes sense then that any bill that we're going to be passing creates incentives to try to accomplish those goals.
Yes, if you can help invest in some of those strategies, they would be very grateful.
Thank you. And we must also respond to the impacts of climate change that are happening now: rising temperatures, sea level rise, and more powerful coastal storms. Our infrastructure is not as resilient to climate change as it should be. There are only 2 bridges that connect Cape Cod to the rest of Massachusetts. Should an extreme weather event strike the Cape, these bridges would serve as vital escape routes for residents and vacationers alike. However, these bridges are currently in a dire state of disrepair and must be replaced. In response to those concerns, I have introduced the ESCAPE Act, which would provide federal funding for state, local, and tribal governments to strengthen and protect essential evacuation routes or to construct new routes. Professor Arroyo, again, are current evacuation routes in our country sufficient to deal with extreme weather events?
No, and on this I can speak from personal experience in addition to the fact that I work on these issues because I'm from New Orleans. My father, Sidney Arroyo, lost his life in the evacuation from Hurricane Ivan, which was a very stressful evacuation in 2004.
So sorry.
And the fact that that evacuation and the contraflow issues were so severe meant that a lot of people chose to stay home the next year when Katrina hit, and obviously over 1,000 people died from that because they didn't leave, some because of the faulty evacuation the year before.
Well,
so thank you for your leadership on that as well.
And thank you, and I'm so sorry for the tragedy. So you believe that a surface transportation reauthorization should include substantial direct funding and grants for states and municipalities to improve resilience?
Yes, we appreciate that.
Thank you. So I think that's something that we just have to make a priority as we work through the legislation, just to ensure that we protect against what is inevitable if we don't take action. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.